Hey everybody, welcome back. If you are returning to the Lightning Bolt Chronicles, if it is your first time, welcome and thank you for joining us. I am your co-host, Christina McCrary on Facebook, aka Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram. I have some other podcasts, some merch, some stuff. Check out that link if you're interested. Co-host, my lovely bestie, please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, hi all my magical friends. It is your local Hufflepuff here. I'm Erica, and I'm Poodle Noodle 82 at the Instagrammy place, and that is all. I'm just here for the fun.
Yeah, man. The fun and the hairy.
Yeah, the
fun and the hairy man. Well, not the hairy man. Yeah, never mind. I'll just, yeah.
So,
anything?
This is chapter 15.
Oh, just straight into it? No, nothing, huh? Okay.
We're just trying to blow past that.
Oh, okay.
So this is chapter 15, and this chapter is titled The Forbidden Forest. So it's an interesting chapter. It's another one of those kind of like the last chapter where it doesn't really happen exactly the way that it does in the book, which is fun. So we've got some new characters. These new characters, finally some like actually new characters. And
I mean, for this book,
none of them are people.
Sorta.
Yeah, not really.
Sorta.
They're creatures. None of them are like Homo sapiens, is what I'm trying to say.
Sorta.
We have, well, I don't know. It's up for debate. We have unicorns. How fantastic. Finally, well, not finally, but some magical creatures. We have werewolves, but it's not an actual, we don't sight the werewolf, we hear it. And then we have creatures. Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. I feel like they thought they heard a werewolf just because they're so sure there's werewolves in there, but I didn't know they heard one.
Well, in the, I guess this could be a book versus movie moment already, but in the movie they do hear it in the distance. In the book, they discuss the existence of werewolves in the forest.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because as we will get into the chapter, people are big old about the forest.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So then we also get to meet centaurs. So I'm trying to think how far back centaurs go, like mythologically speaking, in Greek mythology, in other mythology. Anyway.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. We get to meet Ronan, Bane, and Ferenz. Those are 3 centaurs. And then we also get to meet a hooded figure. Very exciting.
Can we talk about how the centaurs, one's got black hair and is like dark, and one's got red hair and is like a rusty color, and one is like blonde and like a palomino?
Yeah.
Just the diversity in centaurs. I just love that. I just loved, because you know how descriptive she is in the books when she describes stuff, and I just loved like they're so strikingly different, each one.
Right.
Even though there's totally a herd of them.
As are the humans.
Yeah. So I liked that the three that we met were so strikingly different.
Yes, they are. I mean, centaurs, if you don't know what a centaur is, if this is your first time hearing this term, it is a very interesting half body of a human and half body of a horse. They always have, like, imagine a person attached to the back of a horse from the spine down of a horse, in a sense, right? They have tails like a horse would have, like any kind of, like, they're quadrupeds, but they have the ability to speak. They have superhuman intelligence, or like, they basically, what we learn about centaurs in this chapter is that they are very, very connected to the cosmos. Their main, I guess, magical prowess, well, one of them is that they are very astrologically astute, and they are connected to the cosmos in that they read the sky and the
stars and the planets and the
all the stuff in the sky.
Well, but I mean, like, they'll read the stars and that'll tell them one thing, and they'll read the planets and that'll tell them something else, and they'll
and it's never anything that's immediate. It is always foretelling of the future, and it's not ever, like, necessarily the immediate future. So that's a centaur.
And for those who do know what centaurs are, go Centaurs! Those were my kids' high school mascot.
All right,
Go Culver.
Okay. Go Culver. Should we get into it now?
Yeah. You are up for the, although you did bring up all kinds of questions I had not thought about.
Okay.
Because all the centaurs we see are male. And so when you were describing it, and I was going to say a man in a horse's body, because we only see male centaurs, but then it made me wonder, do female centaurs exist? And if not, where the hell do centaurs come from? Like, recreation wise, not like, you know what I mean?
I get I get I'm hip to the I'm hip to the innuendo. I was thinking about, in the future we will come across centaurs much more, but even in those moments, we never hear discussion of female centaurs. And
I didn't realize it until you were describing the body and you were trying to think of the best way to say it. And when you said a person, and I was like, but wait, like, literally, we've only seen men.
If you just saw a dark shadow, that was like some bird or something outside.
I did see it.
I'm trying to picture a pregnant centaur. Like, should there be a female? Where?
Well, I would have to assume that it would have to be more on the horse side, because the human person doesn't appear to have human reproductive organs or anything like that. Like, the body
Oh yeah,
They're
no,
like
they're
down to the belly button and then they become horse.
yeah, they're like Ken. They're like
Yeah.
Ken in the front. Yeah.
But not really, because literally from the belly button down, they're a horse. So it's like what a horse looks like from the front. You see their little chest or whatever, their underbelly. And then it goes backwards into the horse's feet and tail. And I would assume, not because we looked at it or anything like that, but because we're talking about literally female centaurs and whether or not they exist, I would assume they have horse genitalia, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. But what's interesting also is that you just said, like, you just triggered something where I said that they were quadrupeds, which is true, but they also have arms.
They do. They do have arms. They have the
Like,
human body from the head down to the belly button. And then where your V line would be, it turns into a horse, and that's the front two legs. And then there's a horse sticking out of its ass with two more legs out of its backside. I always make myself have to edit.
Interesting.
Not on purpose. Right. Anyway, sorry, my brain took us into a tangent.
As always. That's what we're here for. These are our typical conversations, guys. Like, literally, these are the things. This is why we did the podcast, because we're like, this is what we discuss already, generally. And this is how they go.
And every single time we read the books, we find something new. Like this. It never occurred to me in the other 7 times I've read the books to question whether or not there are female centaurs or how centaurs procreate.
Stay curious, people. Stay curious.
The magic is out there.
So, the story, this chapter anyway, begins with, we left off. Let's see, we're kind of doing this now, right?
They came down the stairs.
Well,
after
Malfoy had just gotten detention from McGonagall. And they were so excited, right? And then they send off Norbert, thankfully, for the good of everyone. And then they're coming down the stairs, and with so much elation and light weightedness, the heaviness of the days already gone, they kind of forgot the invisibility cloak at the top of the tallest tower, at the top of the astronomy tower. And they come downstairs, and lo and behold, there's Filch. And Filch is like, fun, you're getting detention. So, unfortunately, he takes them to McGonagall, and Professor McGonagall is like, are you kidding me right now? What just happened tonight? How is it that, and mind you, these kids are all first years, right? They're all
11 years old.
Yeah. None of the older kids, we don't see any of the older kids getting in this much trouble. And here they are, causing a ruckus.
Ain't even been here a full year yet.
Professor McGonagall is completely beside herself, where she's just like, okay, I've got Malfoy here from Slytherin House, and then Neville, and Hermione, and Harry. And then
wait, you got to explain to the people where Neville came from.
Well, I'm about to. The funny thing is that after I said that, I'm like, wait a minute. How come she didn't wonder where Ron was? But anyway.
Well, remember, Ron had been in the hospital wing.
Yeah, I know. And so this is like the only time that he's not involved in the situation.
Not because he didn't want to be, though. He totally would have been there, but he was in the hospital.
Yeah. So why is Neville with them? This is insane.
When they come down, they run into Filch, and Filch is like taking them to McGonagall, and then Neville comes running up, and he's like, Harry, I was trying to find you guys because Malfoy, and they're like,
yeah. He's like, he knew that Malfoy was up to no good, trying to get them in trouble on purpose because he had the letter from Charlie saying that his friends were going to pick up the dragon in the astronomy tower. So Neville was trying to warn them.
And Neville's like, Malfoy's telling everybody you guys are running around with a dragon. He's trying to get you guys in trouble.
And McGonagall is like, I can't believe that you fed Neville this story about a dragon and whatnot.
Cock and bull story, I believe, is what she said.
Definitely. Absolutely. It was a cock
I just
and bull
thought
story.
that really needed to be in there because McGonagall is fucking steaming, pissing mad.
Yeah, she is.
In her bathrobe, no less.
When she says that, Neville's face is like, he's so sad. He's so disappointed. He's hurt. And that part hurts me the most because he's so innocent and he's so sweet. And I'm like, oh, not Neville.
And his intentions were so good. I'm going to go out. I know I'm not supposed to go out, but I'm going to go out because poor Harry and Hermione, I have to save them. Poor Neville.
And so each lose 50 points each in points. So Gryffindor in one fell swoop loses 150 points, which, woo, Harry was upset. Everyone was like, at first, everyone was confused the next morning when they passed by the points, the hourglass points.
They're like, how did we lose 150 points overnight?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden the story starts getting spread around, and everyone that is not Slytherin is fuming at the great Harry Potter, previously the savior of the Quidditch game, is now public enemy number one. And the Slytherins are all congratulating Harry. Like, thanks, man, good job, because they're about to win the House Cup.
I was going to say, explain why the other two houses are mad.
Slytherin's about to win the House Cup, and people are sick and tired of seeing Slytherin win. And they're just like really frustrated with everybody, right? They're really frustrated, particularly with Harry and his seemingly usual antics now.
Can I also point out a connection I just realized? The 150 points they lost are the 150 points Harry just got catching the snitch at the last game. Because when you catch the snitch, you get 150 points.
Yep. Which means that they were close. Well, or at the same time, Draco also lost 50 for his house. So that means that Slytherin was ahead, and then they must have been 100 points ahead or more, and then that way, when Harry lost their points, and then when yeah, so I would imagine that Slytherin had to have been. They had to have been very close anyway, and then now it's like a lost cause basically, and everyone is very upset with Harry. And then the worst part for me, that night, they go back to their dormitories, and mind you, the Gryffindor boys, there are 5 of them that all share a room. Neville, Seamus, Dean,
Ron, and Harry. The first year is 5 of them.
Neville is crying into his pillow at night because he feels betrayed, and Harry can't tell him otherwise. He couldn't tell him otherwise that, it was true. But yeah, that's really sad. That makes me sad that Neville was so sad. So
It's such a bigger deal than that. Because literally, like, they're the only ones who are nice to poor Neville. Like, remember when he hopped all the way up from the library with his legs bound together, and they took care of him and told him that he was worth 12 of Malfoy, and he even jumped in and fought Crabbe and Goyle because, well, this is what we're doing, knowing he was going to get smashed. Like,
and the fact that
poor
he was just
Neville.
like, I forsake my feelings about leaving the common room in the middle of the night. And he went to purposely try to, save Harry or whatever, feeling like he was doing the right thing as a friend. And he's, felt so betrayed in this way.
He is so devastated. And got friggin' detention on top of it. And lost 50 points to the house. Poor Neville. He's so broken.
So at this point in time, Harry also is kind of feeling the weight of all of this, of losing all the points, of all the other houses being upset at him and Slytherin being happy, thankful for him, that he decides not to meddle anymore. He tries to resolve himself not to meddle in things anymore, not to care about what's under the trap door, not to care about Fluffy or anything else. That lasted like 5 seconds.
Well, a couple days.
Yeah. So it was the week before. It was like the week before exams, and they're studying and whatnot. And Harry overhears Quirrell, and he's like, "No, not again, no!" And then, please, and then he's like pleading, and he's, I don't know, fighting, it seems, with someone, like kind of arguing in a sense. And then he just says, okay, like giving in. And then he walks out of the room that Harry's, like, I guess, behind the door. And then he sees, as he walks out, he like fixes his turban and walks away. And Harry's thinking, well, who's he talking to? Is he talking to Snape? Did he finally tell Snape how to get past whatever his particular enchantment was? And he looks in, and the room's empty. But all right. So he's like, no, I'm not meddling. But oh well, that kind of lasted not that long. So then he tells Harry and Hermione, he tells Ron and Hermione, and they're like, well, go to Dumbledore. Just tell Dumbledore so that Dumbledore can deal with it, right? But they don't have any proof of anything. It's all just like what they've heard or what they've tried to piece together. And they're like, let's just leave it. Let's just leave it alone. And they get letters, these wonderful letters from Professor McGonagall, telling them that they are to serve their detention, finally. What does the letter say? It's very simple.
Mm-hmm. But also very interesting.
Yes. So they get letters at breakfast, Harry, Hermione, and Neville. And it says, your detention will take place at 11 o'clock tonight. Meet Mr. Filch in the entrance hall. Professor McGonagall. How come 11-year-olds are serving detention at 11 o'clock at night?
For the discretion of being out of bed after hours.
know that there is no note anywhere of math class at Hogwarts, but 2 plus 2 does not equal 4 in this case here.
No, maybe it was a since you guys want to be up and running around at night. But
That's
still very odd that 11 p.m. is the detention time.
Yep. So they have to serve their detention at 11, and Filch takes them. So they meet Filch, and then he takes them to where they are going to do their detention. And their detention is with Hagrid in the Forbidden Forest.
What's the name of it? The what forest?
The Forbidden Forest.
So it's forbidden and it's after 11 p.m.
Yes.
Okay.
The rule at the very beginning of this book, when they first get to Hogwarts, is that
the forest is forbidden?
Yes, that you are not to go to the forest,
especially at night? After 11 p.m.?
And then, so Filch leaves them with Hagrid, and he's like, I'll be back at dawn.
For what's left of them.
So this tells us that they're going to be out from 11 p.m. until like 5 a.m. So all night in the Forbidden Forest with Hagrid. This is some crazy detention. And so this is where they discuss the possibility of running into werewolves and whatnot, because Draco is being a little pansy. And he is saying that, this is, what did he say? This was house in the book and in the movie. It's different.
Servant stuff. In the book, he said servant stuff.
In the movie, he says servant stuff.
Okay. Because in the book, he says, this is servant stuff. His father's going to hear about this. Why wouldn't they just be writing lines or something like that? And Hagrid's like, what good is writing lines? Your father will tell you this is how detention is done at Hogwarts.
Yep. Yeah. And then also he's super worried about running into werewolves. Because, werewolves.
And Hagrid's like, there's nothing in the forest that'll hurt you as long as you're with me. But he's got this big giant crossbow and fang.
I know, right? Oh, but he very clearly states that Fang is a big baby.
Well, not until Draco says, fine then, I'm taking the dog. And Hagrid's like, okay, but he's a big old coward.
Oh, and can we just talk about how Filch is really sad as he's walking them into detention? He's really sad that they let the old punishments die out.
Yeah, he still polishes his chains, his shackles down in his office.
Because they would hang you by your wrists from the ceiling for a few days.
Days?
Days. It says for a few days.
Jesus.
How old is Filch? What days were these?
I have no idea, but that man is angry.
I wonder if this happened to the likes of their parents.
It's possible. But then how long, also, like, how old is he? How long has he been there? Because he has the chains. He's like, I still have them, and I polish them just in case they're going to let us use them. And
Yeah. I don't know.
Filch is a weirdo. He shouldn't be at a school with children.
Yeah. I do.
But then, too, Snape literally bullies 11-year-olds, so.
I guess that's the only place where he can feel comfortable imposing his power. Anyway, so they discuss that they could potentially run into werewolves or other creatures. So, but as long as they're with Hagrid, everything should be fine.
Or Fang.
And then he proceeds to split them up.
Which is why I had to point out, Hagrid says, as long as you're with me or Fang, there's nothing in the forest that will hurt you.
And the best part is that the first group was Neville and Malfoy with Fang. And then Harry with Hermione and Hagrid. Wow.
Hagrid should have known that was a terrible split to begin with.
Yeah. So Hagrid tells them exactly the purpose for them being in the forest that night. He says that they're going to help him try to find a unicorn. They're looking for a unicorn that has been injured. And he explains that unicorns are typically very difficult to catch. But this seems to be a young unicorn that's been hurt. And he proceeds to show them a silvery substance, like a kind of viscous substance that he then tells them is unicorn blood.
Silvery blue.
Yes, silvery blue substance that is
it's like
blood, what they're looking for.
I feel like in the movie it kind of looked like mercury.
Yeah.
Like silvery blue, but like the consistency or the look of it was like mercury, like inside of a thermometer.
Yes. Yeah. Or if you're kind of not smart sometimes like me, you played with mercury as a child. But
wasn't that you weren't smart. Somebody obviously didn't tell you.
Yeah, that's true. I was very, very young.
You were a child.
But actually, it's okay. I looked it up, and it doesn't. You don't really get mercury poisoning like in 2 seconds from playing with it, and it doesn't typically seep through your skin so much as we once imagined. You'd like in order to really get like mercury poisoning, you'd have to consume it, and in a different way than just even downing. Anyway, another tangent. So they go off and they start looking for them. And he also explains to send off red sparks if you are in trouble or if you need help or whatever. If you come across the unicorn, whatever, any reason, send up red sparks and they can all reconvene. And they go off and they're like, on their own with their little groups. And of course, red sparks. And Hagrid and Hermione and Harry are like, oh, the other team shot off red sparks. We've got to go. And so they run over there thinking, oh my gosh, they found the unicorn, or oh my gosh, they're in trouble, or oh my gosh, something.
No, Hagrid put them behind a tree and told them to wait. And he ran. Because they had a conversation while they were standing there where Harry was like, I really hope Neville's okay because it's our fault he's even out here.
That's so sad. But he was okay. Kind of.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was fine. He was.
Draco was being a weenie, though. Of course. Draco decided to scare him. Yes, shock.
Are you enjoying the false surprise? The fake shock?
Oh, yes. Big shock.
The little green douche.
Of course, Draco decides to play a prank on Neville. And of course, Neville is scared. And so, of course, Neville decides to shoot up red sparks because he was scared. And that's what called Hagrid over to him. And then so Hagrid's like, okay, great. Well, there's a lot of commotion now. There's no way we're gonna find anything in the forest now. They all come back together, and then they switch teams again. Instead, Hagrid's like, well, Harry, you've got a little more backbone than Neville. Let's stick you with Draco. You won't be so easy to scare. And so there they go, Fang, Draco.
I would also like to point out that what Hagrid actually said, because you're very calm, Hagrid was pissed. So he's like, all right, we're switching teams. Hermione and Neville, you're coming with me. And he's like, Harry, wait, what did he say? Harry and Fang, you go with this idiot. He called him this idiot because that's how mad he was. And then he whispered to Harry, sorry. He's like, but you're not going to scare as easily as Neville. And Harry's like, yeah, all right, that makes sense. So.
And
so now they head off again in different directions.
Well, and he also noticed that, like, there's definitely something in the forest that should not be there.
Right.
There's definitely something in the forest that is beyond werewolves or anything else. And then they come across Ronan. And Ronan, well, Hermione is just like, oh, wow, what are you? And it's Ronan, the first of the centaurs. And he asks, like, hey, Ronan, do you know of anything weird going on in the forest? And Ronan looks up and says, Mars is looking very bright tonight. And, Hagrid's like, oh, all right. And then, and then he's like, but do you notice anything funny in the forest? And then he goes, yeah, the first victims are always the innocent ones, right? And it's like, well, all right, well, you have a good night. We'll catch up another time.
Ruddy Stargazers.
Ruddy Stargazers. Yeah. So Bane and Ronan are of no help. They meet the second centaur as well at that time. They're good for nothing in Hagrid's eyes because
what is Bane's answer to the question?
Bane's answer to the question, isn't it also that the Mars is
looking very bright tonight?
Yeah. It doesn't matter whatever he asks. It's always the same answer, that Mars is looking very bright tonight.
I think we can deduce Mars looks pretty bright that night.
And that apparently has a very important significance to
some kind of meaning.
Yeah. So they go off, and all of a sudden, Draco and Harry see something. They see a hooded figure. And this hooded figure, the moment, so Harry saw it, he said, look, he stops Malfoy from getting any closer because there was like that substance, white, silvery substance gleaming on the ground. And the unicorn is there, the blood is there, they found the unicorn. And Harry had never seen anything so beautiful and sad, because obviously it's a unicorn, which is very beautiful, but it's dead. right? And he looks beyond the unicorn and he sees the hooded figure there with the unicorn. And all of a sudden, as it happens many times to Harry, his scar bursts in pain, right? Just starts burning. And Draco runs away.
Not before he screams. He screams first. This guy doesn't know how to be incognito in the goddamn forest. He screams and runs, and Fang bolts after him because we already said Fang's a coward. So
again, very typical things that happen throughout the Harry Potter series. Harry's scar bursts in pain, just shoots up with pain. Malfoy screams and runs away. All right. Then
well, it's because the scream is what gets the hooded figure's attention.
Yes, that's true. And then basically his scar's on fire, and then he hears hooves, but the unicorn's dead. So here comes another centaur. In this case, it's Ferenz that comes. And it is Ferenz, yeah.
Yeah.
He says
the hooded figure's coming toward Harry, but he's like in pain and can't really do anything, and all of a sudden, the hooves.
And they're like, "Oh, you're the Potter boy. I know you. You should get back to Hagrid because the forest is not a safe place, especially for you." And he says, "Can you ride? It'll be quicker this way." And he lets him hop on his back to give him a ride back. And literally when this happens, Ronan and Bane come and they ask him, "What are you, just like a common mule? Like you're letting humans use you like this?"
There's a human on your back.
Yeah. But I mean, they're very proud creatures, and this is not how things work, right? Like humans don't ride centaurs. And they send him back off to Hagrid, and they talk, and they're like, "You should not be here. Unicorn blood." So he tells them what a unicorn's blood is for, right? They basically tell him that unicorn blood it will keep you alive, even if you are an inch from death, right?
But
at a cost. What's the cost?
You'll be cursed for the rest of your life, because a unicorn is such an innocent and beautiful being that to kill one, just like, it leaves a mark.
Right. And then
now they don't explain it like that, but it's like karma, essentially. You killed something super innocent to save yourself, so you will basically be cursed for the rest of your life.
Yes, because it's so monstrous to slay such an innocent creature, such a beautiful creature, that you basically are condemning yourself. And then Harry is like, "But who would be so desperate? Who would want to?
Who would do that?"
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, I get it. It's Voldemort." And he's trying to stay awake, trying to stay alive until he can get his hands on the Sorcerer's Stone, because the Sorcerer's Stone is in the castle. So
and it makes the elixir of life.
Right. So putting all that together, he's like, "I just ran into Voldemort in the forest. Like, I just came face to face with my would-be murderer. with the man who murdered my parents and tried to kill me. Right?
Also, news alert, people, Voldemort's in the forest.
He's back, or he never left, or something. We don't know.
But he's here.
Yeah, we just know he's here. We know that he is drinking unicorn blood to stay alive, and we know that he putting two together, he is after the Sorcerer's Stone, which provides the elixir of life. Dun, dun, dun. And now they come back together. And of course, Harry immediately tells Ron and Hermione all of these things. Well, not immediately, but they try to tell Ron everything they have to. Did they wake him up? Yeah.
Yeah, he was sleeping in the common room when they got back.
And then they tell him everything. And they're like, we were wrong. Snape doesn't want the stone for himself. Snape wants the stone for Voldemort.
Who's waiting in the forest?
And Ron's like, please stop saying his name. Please, please. Because saying Voldemort's name is not something that we do in the magical world. Everybody just calls him he who must not be named.
Or you know who.
Yes, or you know who. Which is also why Christina says that. Well, many people say that about the author of the book.
She who must not be named.
Yes. If you don't know what we're talking about, just traverse the internet and you'll see.
If you don't know what we're talking about, we fully and wholeheartedly and 100% support the LGBTQIA community. And we have an issue with anybody who outwardly says horrible things about them. So, she who must not be named. Yes, we're allies here. Hope that doesn't lose us viewers, but if it does, I guess we weren't for you.
Yeah, absolutely. If this, why? I mean, I guess there are people out there that just feel that way.
Remind me to tell you a story when we get off air that happened during my work hours last week.
Last week, okay. But yeah, so hopefully if you're still here, you're with us. And
we are allies, people. We are, and we are not ashamed of it.
That's right. We're here for all.
Some of our most fun friends are gay.
Back to the summary. We're almost done.
Sorry.
Tangies. That's another reason we're here.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So then basically, so they say that Dumbledore is the only one that Voldemort has ever had an issue with. The only one that Voldemort has never been able to, that he was afraid of, right? Harry, Hermione says, Harry, everyone says that Dumbledore was the only one you know who was ever afraid of. If Dumbledore's around, right, then you'll be fine. And then when Harry gets back upstairs, he has his invisibility cloak again on his bed waiting for him. And there's a little note that said, just in case. Somebody's looking out for Harry. I don't know who, but somebody.
That invisibility cloak keeps showing up. Apparently he needs to have it.
Yeah.
All right. And that's where the summary where the chapter ends. The invisibility cloak is back in Harry's bed with a note that says, just in case. And now we know that Voldemort is in the forest. Bum, bum, bum. We already did some of it, but book versus movie.
The groupings, the detention groupings. Is there something before that? Hold on.
I feel like they didn't come back together and regroup. I think their original groups in the book, in the movie, are Malfoy, Harry, and Fang.
Yeah, Neville was never there.
That's right.
Neville didn't do detention. Neville didn't go, because remember, the astronomy tower thingy never happened with Norbert, right? So Neville was never there. Neville didn't do detention. It was actually,
so it was just Harry, Hermione, and Draco.
Ron was there too.
Ron was in detention in the movie?
Yeah, because Ron didn't have a dragon bite, and Ron didn't go to the hospital wing. They got detention because they were out at Hagrid's hut learning about Norbert.
That's right. They got caught because they were out at Hagrid's hut, and Ron also got detention.
Right, because Draco was peeping through the window, and so Draco, Ron, Hermione, and Harry got detention.
Yes, because they're standing in front of McGonagall's desk, and she's like, yes, you'll all have detention. Something, something, something. The four of you, something, something. And Draco's like, wait, hold on. Am I mistaken, Professor? And she's like, you were also out of bed. There's no excuse. You also have detention. You're right.
Yeah. So
Draco's all smug.
Yeah. So Neville was never part of it. Instead, it was Ron. And then so the groupings were different in the sense that it was they never switched, right? It was always Draco with Harry
and Fang.
And then Hagrid with Ron and Hermione. And Harry never rides Firenze.
Firenze does swoop in and save him from the hooded figure, but he doesn't ride Firenze because so what happens is the hooded figure is literally face in unicorn drinking blood in the movie. And when Draco screams and runs and Fang runs after him, and I do think Fang is also barking, you see them like run off or whatever, and the hooded figure starts to come towards Harry. And Firenze comes in and scares it away, and the hooded figure goes away. So he doesn't ride Firenze, but Firenze stays with him and like makes sure he gets back to Hagrid.
Well, no, Hagrid comes in, walks into the shop after that.
Oh, Draco and Fang probably went back and got Hagrid. But yeah, like he's there talking to Harry, and Harry does not ride him.
Right. We also don't meet Ronan or Bane in the movie. It's only Firenze.
No, we don't. Because they don't come up on the centaurs first and have conversations with them and all that stuff. Like the centaur comes out of nowhere, saves Harry from the hooded figure, and then Harry's like, oh crap, it's a centaur.
Yeah, I want to say those are some pretty major differences in the fact that the characters, the storyline, it's a little bit different, right? But
Neville's not in the forest. Ron is in the forest. The reason they're in the forest is different.
But at the end of the day, they're still resolved that Snape wants the stone for Voldemort.
Who is waiting in the forest.
Yes.
And that is where our chapter ends. That is how the movie plays it, which is totally different from the book.
Yes.
All right. Takeaways?
He's back. he's back, he's back, he's back. Not
happy, but like, yeah, hello, he's back. So yeah, that's the takeaway. Voldemort is in the forest, people. He's there. He's here. He's on school grounds. Another breach in security. Hello. Hogwarts is supposed to be the safest place besides Gringotts, but Charlie's friends just landed on the astronomy tower. Voldemort's in the forest.
I mean, magic, right?
I suppose. But they have magic too. Their enchantments and security are magic.
The bad people have magic, and really bad people have dark magic. So it depends on how dirty you want to get your hands.
And if those who put up the enchantments have the capacity to think how low someone would go to try to get past the security and be able to enchant that. Yeah.
There you go.
My takeaways from this chapter were that Voldemort's waiting in the forest, people. It's about to get real. But this is chapter 15. There's only 2 chapters left. So things are about to go down because they're about to wrap it up. The second takeaway was, again, poor sweet Neville and just how hurt he was. And just knowing the story arc and everything that comes later and realizing where Neville comes from and how sad and unliked he is for no reason, because he's really the sweetest, most innocent boy. So my heart went out to Neville. And the fact that, like you said, someone really wants Harry to keep that invisibility cloak close to him.
Yep.
So those are my takeaways. The invisibility cloak, Voldemort's in the forest, and poor sweet Neville, who I just feel so bad for.
Yeah. I agree. That was sad.
Okay. Is it time?
Yes. It is time.
Let's make magic.
Let's do it.
All right.
Show me my, what is it? Materials.
I'm trying. It's not, oh, hold on. I'm doing it wrong. That's why, because I'm a loser. Okay.
No, you're not. Don't you say that.
All right.
All right. Here we have the materials. You're going to need a flask, a beaker, something, whatever you want to put something in. Preferably, it should have a lid because we are making something that is viscous. We are making unicorn blood. So I have mica powder. Mica powder is used in makeup. It's used in bath bombs. It's used in all kinds of stuff. And you can substitute it with just glitter or with food coloring. But I used mica powder. I also used wax. You'll see why in a moment. And cornstarch as a thickening agent. But I would imagine that you can use other thickening agents if you have them, such as xanthan gum or flour or gelatin even. Okay? So basically you're going to use water because you're not going to want to use anything that goes bad because so heat up some water and put your thickening agent in there and put in your mica powder or your glitter or your whatever food coloring to make it look silver. Then we switched. And then I used a funnel. That's my liquid. And I funneled it into my bottle very carefully. Don't spill. And there it is. Now, I didn't like the way that it looked. It wasn't shiny enough for me. It wasn't magical enough for me. So I added glitter, a bunch of glitter. Oh, what a sweetie Petey.
That was a big yawn.
That was Stormy's wake up yawn.
Yeah, so she's been sleeping in my lap this whole time.
It just didn't have like the glitter shine that I wanted it to, so I just kept adding glitter. I used like nail glitter. It's literally from Wet n Wild, like just glitter. And you can make it chunky glitter, thick glitter, or like I used very, very like small glitter. Go on. That's what it looks like now. And then I made it a label. And the label says unicorn blood keeps the drinker alive, even if they are an inch from death.
Bum, bum, bum.
And that's it. So I used the wax to seal the cork. Give it that kind of sealed magical effect. And you can put some string on it. You can do whatever you want in that sense, but mine does not have that. Now, mine also is very thick. It's barely moving. It's very, very thick. But at least you can see just how adorably glittery it is. Do you see how adorably glittery it is? And there it is. There's the little label.
Go do pee-pee. Go do pee-pee.
Glittery.
So, go do pee-pee.
I put about, in this bottle, I put about 1 teaspoon of cornstarch. And in order to activate it, you have to heat the cornstarch. So make sure that you do that so that it can thicken. The same, well, with gelatin, same thing. You have to heat any thickening agent to activate it. So,
well, I was going to say, if you use warm water, like if you warm up the water first, won't that work?
No, because so with gelatin, yes. With gelatin, all you have to do is use warm water. With cornstarch, you should cook it a little bit to give it that like time to thicken.
Okay.
Cornstarch needs a little bit more love.
Okay.
To make that action happen.
Okay.
But gelatin works just fine. Either one of them will do. And then depending on how much you want to have, this was the only bottle at my dollar store. This is the size. It's like the length of my hand. But if you want to make a smaller bottle, that's fine too. But this is the size of the bottle that I have. So this is what I used.
All right.
Yeah. And if you don't want to put thickening agent in it, if you just want to have glittery water in here, that's fine too. Because you're going to seal it. So it's not going to come out.
Okay. That ought to be interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Next section. Hallows or Horcruxes? Boom, boom, boom. This week's question, and I was being funny when I wrote it. I was thinking about, oh, what would you rather be alone in the woods with, a bear or a man? But they did go into the forest. They did meet creatures, and not from a danger standpoint or anything like that, just from a, if you had to choose one, would you rather run into a centaur or a unicorn in the woods?
This is so hard for me.
Okay, then I'll go first.
Okay, good.
I choose the unicorn.
Okay.
And the reason why is because if we go based on what we've seen in the books as their attributes and personalities and all that stuff, they don't set out to be, but the centaurs aren't exactly friendly, inviting, or conversationalists. So
Right.
I think I'd rather go for the beauty and the innocence of the unicorn.
They are,
and that's the only reason why. Because curiosity-wise, I'd want to meet them both. Because what the hell? What, like, a unicorn, a centaur? What? A werewolf? If it wouldn't eat me. But that's why I chose the unicorn. Because Ruddy Stargazers, I don't want to hear that the Mars is bright tonight from every one of them.
I do. So, like, okay, here's my dilemma. That unicorns are unicorns. What percentage, right? Opportunity do you have? It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's just not going to happen. And sure, we use unicorn hair for like a core of a wand, or we use other like for potions or other things, right?
How do they get that stuff if unicorns are so hard to catch?
Because they're magical. You can only catch the foals, the babies. Anyway, but centaurs, they actually speak, right? So am I going to have the opportunity to sit down and have like a proper conversation with them? Is it going to be where I can like talk about the stars and stuff and ask questions, kind of like a psychic reading situation? Not particularly for me specifically, but just in general, getting their thoughts, like Mars is bright today.
Yeah, but will they elaborate on Mars is bright tonight? What the hell does that mean?
Right. I want to know like what the situation is going to look like. Because if it's just for like 5 seconds, I'd probably pick the unicorn. But in this case, I think I'd much rather have a conversation with a centaur. And
interesting. I feel like a conversation with a centaur would frustrate me. Like they talk in circles about the stars and don't really necessarily have. You know what I mean?
Well, or
they don't.
Do they leave you with something to mull over?
Perhaps. As most of their conversation seems to be in questions.
Yeah. They have their interpretations of things. And that part's a little bit different. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, tell the people where to find you.
Poodle Noodle 82.
At the Instagrammy place.
That's me.
And I am Christina McCrary on Facebook, Xtina McCrazy on TikTok and Instagram. I have some other podcasts. I got merch. We got YouTubes and websites and other social media. Everything can be found at this link right here, msha.ke/Xtina McCrazy. And We'll see you guys in 2 weeks.